So I do play characters that have had a great misfortune. So I must have something in me, in my makeup, that allows me to portray that without being too um, inward. Having said that, getting the text across is really important for me. All the consonants, and actually they're very expressive, the consonants. Lots of German, the sort of ich habe ein glühendes Messer, ein Messer in meiner Brust. Oh weh, das schneidet so tief. It hurts so deeply. Perfection happens in the recording studio when you have 6 or 7 goes at it. And even then, it probably is never how you really want it to be. But I have done a few recordings which have been better than others, shall we say. And that's because I had about 5 or 6 goes at it. And so, but in a performance, you just have to do your best and try and be in character, in the moment.
We are mighty thrilled. The spring 2026 season of the SOI is well underway. And get your tickets on Book My Show or alternatively at the NCPA box office, which is the venue. This is a remarkable performance at the Jamshed Barber Theatre. The Symphony Orchestra of India has a brand new chief conductor, Martyn Brabbins, and Martyn Brabbins shall be accompanied by one of the greatest mezzo-sopranos in the world, Dame Sarah Connolly. We're really pleased to welcome Sarah Connolly on the show. Wonderful to meet you and talk to you. How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Feeling a lot better in the sunshine. In England, it's really disgusting weather. It's wet, cold, windy. So I feel very happy here in Mumbai.
I was speaking with Martyn a few days ago. He had many vibrant, resplendent things to say about you. He says, without a shadow of a doubt, you're perhaps the best mezzo-soprano in the world. And those
Oh
are
my
his
God.
words that I used. You want to return the compliment? Tell us a
Yes,
little bit
I
about your
do.
association
I
with
do.
Martyn.
Yes, well, apart from anything, Martyn is almost used to be a neighbour of mine in my town where I used to live. But funny enough, we never saw each other because we were always both busy. But no, I really will return the compliment. It's not true what he said, but it's very kind of him to say that. But he really is, whenever I know I'm going to work with Martyn, I breathe a sigh of relief and joy because not only is he a very technically proficient conductor, he absolutely understands everything about the music. He's a singer-friendly conductor. He's a good friend. He's just a lovely, lovely man. And I enjoy working with people who bring joy to the whole room. I can't stand bullies. And in our business, there's 1 or 2 bullies. So when I know that I'm working with Martyn, I think he has this wonderful way of communicating to the musicians, which is never patronizing. He's just completely clear, inspired and inspiring, and kind, and just says what musicians need to hear, not sort of being rude or being sarcastic or sort of speaking above their heads sometimes. He just tells them what they need to know in order to play it better. And I really think I wish there was more of that from conductors than the sort of slightly pontificating sort of attitude some of them have, which is intimidating as well. So I have to say another one of my favorite conductors is Sir Simon Rattle, because in a way I'm comparing them because they're similar in the way that they communicate in a really beautiful, kind way. So that matters to me. Maybe not to other singers, but it matters to me.
How wonderful. Gustav Mahler, this is Songs of a Wayfarer, composed in the late 1880s.
Yeah.
You yourself are considered one of the great Mahlerians of our generation. Please tell us what the music of Mahler, the compositions mean to you.
Well, in general, it's I must have something in me, something in my psyche that I share with Mahler, a sense of the tragic, maybe. I am a tragedienne in that I do play a lot of roles, characters like Dido, Queen of Carthage, both in Purcell and Berlioz, and Fricka in The Ring, and Brangena from Tristan und Isolde, and Medea. She is a tragedy, and I know people think of her differently, but it's a very tragic thing that happened to her. So I do play characters that have had a great misfortune. So I must have something in me, in my makeup, that allows me to portray that without being too inward. I can feel it without, being too self-regarding. But Mahler himself was somebody who didn't like operatic displays of drama. All the drama is like an actor reading the poetry. It's like reading it, just simply, directly telling the truth. And so there's one thing that I've learned about Mahler is not to try and perform it like an opera singer, but to just tell the poem, tell the meaning in every way possible through body language. Tomorrow I'm wearing a coat, a velvet Indian coat, because with embellishments. Because for me, it's a male character that's singing. I mean, it's Mahler. And while I'm obviously female, I do understand that it's more of a young man's. It's a universal problem, rejection. The poems are about him being rejected by the woman he loves. And it was true in real life. She was called Johanna Richter, and she married somebody else, and it broke his heart. So that's a universal situation. But it is sort of told from Mahler's own perspective, which is intimate. He talks about going into his bedroom and weeping, and that he feels like he's got a knife in his chest. It's quite melodramatic, that, but it's not. And musically, it's very violent and very noisy in the orchestra. And then the last song, he sort of feels he wants to find some kind of resolution, some peace. So he goes and sits in an orchard underneath a tree and tries to find peace. It's not entirely comfortable. There's this major minor feeling. It's not actual peace, but it's some kind of resolution. And so I feel that it's the same with the other songs on the death of children, Kindertotenlieder, and the symphonies, that a simple delivery without any operatic melodrama is the way forward. When I'm looking at the audience singing these songs, I don't try and sell it to the back row. I try to throw my voice, but I don't do big gestures or something. I try to focus it as if I were having a conversation with either myself or another person. But I don't try and make a big display. Having said that, getting the text across is really important for me. All the consonants, and actually they're very expressive, the consonants. Lots of German, the sort of ich habe ein ein Messer in meiner Brust. Oh weh, das schneit so tief. It hurts so deeply. And so the words, es schneit so tief, is very expressive. So for me, the expression comes through the language, and how to sing it with the right expression.
It's very beautifully explained. Thank you for hand-holding us through the program. You said something which really segues beautifully into my next question. You talked about this coat you're going to wear and, playing male, and you're no stranger to that. Over the last 10 years, terms like diversity and inclusion have come to the fore. But in your extensive career of 3 decades, diversity and inclusion has always been a part of your life. I mean, look at your career. You've played Romeo, you played Xerxes, you played Julius Caesar in the opera. How wonderful is that? I want to, in particular, come to Xerxes because that was the breakthrough, wasn't it, at the English National Opera, which changed the trajectory of your career. What was it about that production or that role, Handel, Xerxes, that unlocked your confidence as a leading mezzo?
That's a really brilliant question. Thank you, because unlocked is the right word. I would say the freedom of Nicholas Heitner's production. Nicholas Heitner is now the main director at the Bridge Theatre in London, but he's been a big influence on opera and opera singers and on me. He once said to me, I wish opera singers wouldn't try to act. I just want them to understand what they're saying and don't try to sell it, or I think teachers call it show and tell at school, but just try to live the moment, and that's enough. And so I felt that a great liberation unlocked. It was a big role, so I had to work hard to memorize it, and I'd never sung anything that long before. In fact, it was my first Handel role. And so I felt that as long as I understood the character who Xerxes was in Handel's imagination, there was almost nothing historical I could steal. Like Julius Caesar, there's lots to read about. And I also played Mary Stuart. And so I read everything there was about Mary that I could lay my hands on, especially older Mary before she was executed. And same for Julius Caesar, and same for Medea. But for this character, the fact that he was a warrior was enough, and that he had been away and didn't know how to behave in a domestic situation. But the way Handel wrote it was to make fun of him in a not a very kind way, quite a funny way. Nicholas Heitner's production highlighted the comedy and yet also allowed Handel's sincere music. I had the odd sincere moment to sort of shine through. And I felt a great physical freedom in that production, in the gorgeous frock coats, cream satin, embroidered 18th century, bit like the clothes you wear in these beautiful embroidered silk satin jackets to below the knee, with quite I wouldn't say baggy trousers, but the trousers that came in at the ankle. So I did feel quite Indian in this. I did feel very elegant. And yes, so all the costumes I would say was sort of slightly inspired by the 18th century and by Indian costume. So I felt that opened up a lot of doors for me because I got a lot of offers after that to play Handel roles, male Handel roles.
You know, it's been 2 years and some, but I'm going to help you jog back your memory. The King's Medal for Music, it's a big honor, isn't it? It recognizes lifetime contribution. I want to know how that specific honor changed, if at all, the way you view your role. Do you look upon it yourself a little more seriously as an ambassador for British music internationally now when you
Well,
travel?
that's why I was given the medal, because I'm an ambassador already.
Already.
I was given the medal because I speak up for the hardship British musicians suffer under lack of funding in our own government, lack of philanthropy. Although those who do give, we're incredibly grateful. But we feel that people in the city, the businessmen who support Formula One or support sport, they don't lend their or give their money to the arts enough, like they do in America, say, although that's coming under tremendous problems with funding. But generally speaking, I also talked about Brexit and the problems that musicians face traveling to Europe at the time when it was really at its worst. I also go and do a lot of teaching in colleges and privately help young singers, introducing them to conductors, and privately. They don't even know I do it half the time, but I sort of feel that it's important to try and connect people. And just to sort of speak up when somebody needs to write an important letter to the Times or about a university being a university's music course being stopped, or English National Opera, for example. I was very sad for them that they were being interfered with by the government at the time, and that the company effectively was split in two. And I didn't feel that was the right thing. So yes, so I do speak up, and I think, well, I know because the man who was on the committee for this medal said, it's because you speak up. It's because you
Wow.
aren't afraid to speak on behalf of musicians, and also because you're a good singer. That is
That might
why
have that might have something to do with it.
that might. Maybe no one would bother listening to me if I wasn't very good, but I'm not. Yes, so I'm sorry, I'm ridiculously English and modest, but I am proud of the fact that I do speak up for musicians. I think that's important.
You know, we're incredibly proud of the National Center of Performing Arts, where you're sat at,
Yes,
and the
yes,
Symphony Orchestra of India, which now Martyn is chief conductor of. I
yes.
wonder if they
Wonderful.
sent you. It's your first trip to Mumbai as a soloist, and we're hoping there'll be many more to come. But my question to you is, what do you think of the facility? Did they send you pictures, or have you taken a recce, a tour now?
I
And the
have.
Symphony
I've taken
Orchestra
a
of India.
tour. I think it's wonderful. I would love to be involved with getting some singers, not just the chorus singers, but a few young soloists. I'd love to be involved in helping them with their technique and with their repertoire, and maybe if there's an opportunity to help them in some way, or those that want to sing Western European music, I'd be more than happy to help them find a way of making that happen. And I know, the chances of them coming to study in England, a lot of instrumentalists do that, but there is no reason why singers like myself couldn't help young singers here, prepare them perhaps for post-degree courses in Europe, wherever, because there's a lot you can talk about without it being too odd. You don't have to sing perfectly in German at 18, but as long as you understand how the body works, say, or to express yourself in music you want to sing. But it's only for those who would want to go and study in Europe. That would be the thing I could do. But yeah, I've never been to India before. This is the extraordinary thing. So I'm not here for long this time, unfortunately, but I hope to come back and spend a bit more time, plan it better, have a bit more time here.
The orchestra itself, this is the 20th year. It's very, very special this particular spring season. It's actually a
Yes.
motley bunch of musicians, and people like Marat, and before this, in fact, he
Yeah.
continues to be very actively involved, Marat Bisangaliev
Yes.
and
Yes.
Chairman Santuk. So just the composition of the orchestra, considering you're going to go into rehearsal in a bit.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I think as many musicians you can encourage to join and be part of this group. I think that's a really worthy, wonderful concept to provide an opportunity for people who want to learn to play an instrument and travel the world and be working with these amazing conductors that you have. Because I think Martyn's appointment is absolutely perfect, because he's such a good teacher as well. I think that's really important, to find a conductor who has patience and who can communicate well. So I think that's a really superb appointment, getting Martyn to be part of this orchestra.
Pardon the layman's question, but this is really for people who are watching or listening who want to understand the difference between a mezzo's lower tessitura and a soprano's brightness, as it were. Could you sing or vocally demonstrate briefly a phrase in maybe two different placements and explain what
Yeah.
you're physically doing? Because I find it remarkable.
Well, we have sort of natural registers in our voice. They go high, and then when they go low, the voice goes through a little change, and then we have to sort of slightly change it into a more nasal forward position So when we're going up high, it's more. When we go down, it's into the chest. And so we sort of keep the resonance here, but we're sort of resonating in our clavicles, that's right, and our rib cage here, upper rib cage. And so it's just a question of shifting the resonance to different parts of the head and the chest. I mean, the sound is made in the throat, but we use the spaces in our sinuses and in the mouth and in the back of the throat as well. So it's just a question of arranging also the matter of the tongue, keeping it out of the way, you know, keeping it nice and flat or high when you go up to the top of the voice. So there are adjustments to make in the mouth. But also what's very important is I try to impress upon young singers is that you must use your body. You train like, I don't say like a top athlete, but to stay fit is important because you're using your rib cage to support it all. You're using the muscles in your rib cage, the intercostal muscles, all the solar plexus, all the abdominals, and so it's important to try and play sport like tennis or cricket or something where you're running or go to the gym or something because that just keeps everything moving. So it's, the hardest thing is to sing when you're not well. That's a really mentally difficult thing to have to handle. So when I am well, I don't allow myself to worry too much. It's a psychological game I play with myself.
Well, I didn't want to sound silly before this interview, so I went and did some essential reading on you. So I find it fascinating that you trained as a pianist and sang with the BBC singers before fully moving into opera. Can you tell us one technical or musical habit from your time as a chorister, perhaps, that still shapes how you prepare a solo role today?
Yes, it's not to worry when the red light goes on for recording, because when I was in the radio choir, everything was recorded. And even if you felt ill or whatever, it didn't matter. You just had to do it. And so from that professional level, when I moved into opera and there were these young singers straight out of college saying, ooh, they're going to be filming it tonight. I was like, yes, and you know, it was like, it was no problem for me because I was used to that pressure of everything being recorded. And we also had solos in the BBC Singers. It wasn't just a big choir, it was quite a small choir. And we were working with the top composers of the day, Berio, Boulez, Ligeti, and then all the British composers, Mark Turnage. And so we were working with these composers, and so we just had to try and do our best. Harrison Birtwistle a lot. We did a lot of his music. So I would say my training in the BBC Singers taught me not to worry about recording or being perfect because you're never going to be perfect. I think that's the thing to accept. Perfection happens in the recording studio when you have 6 or 7 goes at it, and even then it probably is never how you really want it to be. But I have done a few recordings which have been better than others, shall we say, and that's because I had about 5 or 6 goes at it. And so, but in a performance, you just have to do your best and try and be in character, in the moment, and not worried about, oh, I've got that big phrase coming up, it's going to be rubbish, I'm going to blow it, you know, it's going to be terrible. So that has to go. You just have to say, I'll deal with it when I come to it, you know. And preparation is very important as well, to tell your head, tell your brain how to deal with difficult phrases in advance.
You need to walk across to your rehearsal, so you probably need
Yeah.
about 10 minutes and some for that. So I'm going to make this my last question. And really, it stems from the beginning of this interview where you spoke or half sang in German for a bit. I wonder, I mean, you sing in so many languages. Do you learn character and motive through diction first, like vowel placement, or through larger musical gestures Maybe a concrete example where a single consonant or vowel shift changed the character's meaning for you. I think that could be the last question.
Well, certainly in German, that's the case, because it's a very expressive, plosive, very sort of accent, sound more than the English. English is quite implosive. French is very implosive. Italian has this, it's more the front of the tongue, drier sound. But last year I sang in Arabic in Saudi Arabia, in Riyadh, and I sang a whole role in Arabic. So I had to learn not only what I was saying, but what everyone was saying to me, and to try to be perfect in a language that was so alien to me. But I loved it. I loved all the sounds, all the different the ain sound, the ba'ada, and the habba, and all these strange sounds that we would never encounter unless you learn to sing in Arabic. So I like the challenge of trying new languages. I have sung in Sanskrit, and
Wow.
I have sung some Holst, Rig Veda, and my friend Paul Edlin has written an opera in Sanskrit. So maybe that could be performed here somewhere. I don't know. But I like challenges of trying new sounds and bringing music to different communities that wouldn't normally hear a Western European voice sing in their language. I haven't tried Chinese. I haven't tried Mandarin yet. That's a bit scary.
Never say
But
never.
never say never.
There you have it, 20 years at the Symphony Orchestra of India. It's the spring 2026 season. This evening, Thursday, the 12th of February, 7 p.m. At the Jamshid Baba Theatre at the NCPA. It is Martyn Brabbins conductor, Dame Sarah Connolly mezzo-soprano. There's some Mendelssohn on the program, Mahler on the program, and they close with Shostakovich Symphony number 10. Tickets are live at Book My Show and as well as the Venue box office. Please get them fast. 6+ years allowed. So if you have children above the age of 6, wonderful time to inculcate them into the beauty and the pleasures of the Symphony Orchestra of India and Dame Sarah Connolly. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
One world, your station.